Hello, it's Monday, every trader's favorite day of the week. This is your morning mug trading prep. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to go over some of the news from the past weekend, try and catch up, be ready for the bell here Monday morning, 9:30 Eastern. Going to try and focus on some of the hotter sectors and maybe pick up on some of the events and catalysts that are going to be coming up this week. And what we're also going to be going over is what I'm going to be calling my mug stock. It's going to be my one stock that I'm going to be focusing on the most this week. With that said, none of the opinions further presented here on Morning Mug are any sort of trading advice, no sort of financial advice. Do not make any decisions based on what you hear here. Please make your own trading decisions based on due diligence you've done on your own and not what you've heard on the internet. Let's take a quick glance at the futures here and see where they've been over the last year and see kind of the year at a glance and see where things are picking up here into the new year. Alright, so moving over to the charts here, we have the S&P 500, SPX ticker symbol. Not a whole lot to do here. Figured we'd just kind of look at the year at a glance here. A bullish wedge upwards. And on a more recent time basis, here we're making consistent higher highs and much higher lows on the S&P. We all know it's heavily weighted in technology, so that's probably an explanation for that. Let's move over to the NASDAQ composite, which is clearly weighted in technology, and we can see the drop was way less in February there, and we're way higher than those highs. And with the Dow index, a little less recovery, still above where we were in February there before the crash. So nothing to be too down about, but obviously there's a little bit less of a bullish sentiment in this chart. As you can see, the lows have stagnated, actually started getting lower at a certain point here. Now we're back into this bullish area here, which is right around the election time. This kind of took off for all of them. Took off right around the election time in the United States there. So that kind of explains that. That kind of puts a time frame or a catalyst, so to speak, on the change in the market. So just keep that in mind. Some of the news that happened over the weekend or the past week that's going to be having some effects this week. First, we've got some election updates here. Republican effort to overturn election rips party apart. Mostly just wanted to bring up this one here to just kind of confirm that some of the volatility that the elections caused is going to be continuing. Some S&P articles here. Energy and travel amongst the worst S&P 500 performers of 2020. So these are some of those plays that you could find that are going to be your overbeat down plays that are, so to speak, bound to rebound. Some more concrete, better growth opportunities you could find in 5G or in semiconductors here. Should be some good markets, some good sectors for the upcoming year. Just wanted to bring these up for some ideas. We've got our darling NIO here. Record run continues as deliveries spike 121% in December. EV maker confirms sedan launch on NIO Day. So NIO Day is going to be one of our upcoming catalysts. That's a great one to keep an eye on. Obviously we've got Tesla noted here as well. If you got some money aside and you don't care about it for the next 5 years, there's always Tesla. You can never go wrong with Tesla. Next sector we'll touch upon here is the psychedelic sector. Picked up some traction there late last year. Kind of seen some crazy gains and some pullbacks here with the leaders offering some stocks and whatnot. We'll touch on that later on with the mug stock. A little foreshadowing there. So this one here is from Bazinga Psych, the first psychedelics ETF. Beckley raises $19 million. 3 companies go public. So this ETF is going to be released by Horizons ETFs Management. They do Marijuana Life Science Index. It's a relatively popular one there. This one's the psychedelic one's likely going to be listed under PSYK on Canada's NEO exchange. So one of those tougher exchanges to get your hands on stocks sometimes, but it's growing. It's growing its basis, its market basis there. So definitely an opportunity in the psychedelic sector there. One of those aforementioned IPOs here, Neon Mind Biosciences, trading on the Canadian Securities Exchange. It's going up for 10 cents. It's been traded since the 29th there. It's a little bit tougher to get your hands on this one here for some of the commission-free trading brokerages, but nonetheless, figured I'd bring this one up to anyone who's watching here. Nice little opportunity. We've seen some crazy growth in the low cap stocks in the psychedelic sector that are kind of just being picked up by the tides of the rest of it. So definitely something to keep on your watch list there.
Just wanted to do that as a sort of sighting our rifles type exercise to, focus on some of the better sectors that are available to us this week and the coming weeks. We'll move on to some watch lists here. This watch list is simply just those 20 stocks, the biggest losers from the S&P 500 of the last year. Not much to look at here beyond just mentioning that we're going to be picking out some of these and establishing some mock positions here to see how easy it is to make some money on some of these stocks that got beat right down. Going to do some due diligence, obviously, to make sure that we pick good ones. We're not just going to grab them out of a hat or anything like that. No sort of randomness. A little bit of practice, a little bit of strategy. Our next watch list here is going to be the electric vehicles watch list. So as we mentioned, that catalyst for NIO Day, NIO's been seeing some good deliveries, been reaching some good demand. So their stock, if we just want to pull it up here quickly, over the last few days has definitely started trending upward in the typical pre-anticipatory run-up fashion to their NIO Day. Thursday we saw a bit of a pullback. This Thursday is also prior to those delivery notes, the delivery numbers that we just recently saw, so keep that in mind. Looking back at the watch list here, there's some to keep an eye on, there's some to maybe avoid. Nikola, we've seen how that one went from Nikola Day and onward, and some events beforehand as well. XPeng, ticker symbol XPEV here, is definitely one that's been seeing some good traction lately. And we've got some ETFs in here as well. If you want to just take a picture of some of this, take a screenshot, write some of these down if you're missing some of these on your watch list. Some good ETFs right here to kind of follow some of the EV trends. And if NIO does have a crazy day, as it's known to have here, a crazy week, as it's been known to have, then maybe its tides will rise up the rest of this sector there. So keep that in mind and keep some of those other stocks on your watch list there for that reason exactly. And our last watch list here is going to be the psychedelics watch list. They've pulled back quite a bit. Let's pull up Compass as our market leader here. This is the small 6 month chart here, just to kind of get an idea of what's gone on. Quite a bit of a pullback there. This is a high growth sector, a disruptive sector. It's going to be, some of these are biotech, some of these are just pure pharmaceutical plays. And then we've got some growers as well with Numi down here. Lots of opportunity in the psychedelic sector. Definitely just wanted to bring some further exposure to that and lead us right on into our mug stock. So quickly, what is a mug stock? What do you mean by this? Well, I just mean for it to be a metaphor. It's in your morning cup of coffee. It's in your mug of coffee in the morning. You've done your due diligence beforehand. You're ready at market open for this stock and what's going to happen with it, on any given day of the week. So that leads us into our pick. The pick being Mindmed. We've already touched on it lightly, but we're going to go a little deeper in it here. I'm not going to do a whole lot of fundamental due diligence here. There will be a little bit. You can see here we do have the investor deck open there. So that'll help us with a little more of the fundamental stuff. We're going to look more at the technicals. In Canadian dollars, $3.88 traded on the NIO. First, we're going to take a look at market capitalization. This is going to be a couple of numbers thrown at you, so I'm just going to block what's being shown on my screen and just have some numbers so that it's a little easier to follow here. And then we'll probably shrink it down as we move along and add to it. So the first number we're going to add there is going to be the 1.265 billion market capitalization in Canadian. That roughly turns into about $1 billion American. Going to keep that for the current market capitalization of Mindmed going into the week. And then just as a benchmark, we're going to add Compass Pathways there. Compass Pathways currently traded at $47.64 American on the NASDAQ. And for a market capitalization valuation of 1.71 billion American. So we're just going to have those numbers there. Why do we have those numbers there? So Compass is a little more of an established company in the psychedelic sector here. So we want to have something that's a little more well-known and well-respected in terms of numbers that we can use to then apply to Mindmed's valuation. So what intellectual property and value, so to speak, does Compass have as a company? Just doing a broad overlooking because we don't want to spend too much time on the company that I'm not picking, but Compass Pathways is mostly focused on psilocybin assisted therapy. This is one strain of the psychedelic psychedelic medicine sector, and therefore I would kind of say that their paths to victory are a little bit more limited than Mindmed.
Moving over to Mindmed and their pipeline, you can see that they have 3 psychedelic-inspired medicines. First one being LSD for assisted therapy for anxiety. It's Project Lucy, that's the one that we've been hearing about the most lately here with JR on his interviews. Moving into phase 2B this year, ideally, I believe. So we'll hear about that one. And then the other LSD therapy was for adult ADHD. Same thing, moving into 2A's actually. So that was supposed to be end of last year, but we'll see how that moves. Next up being 18MC for opioid withdrawal. This is to help with the opioid epidemic, obviously. People in North America know that, this is a great issue of ours. It's the leading killer in Canada and kills many in the United States. So I'd love to see that one move along as quickly and as efficiently as possible. That'd be awesome. And then in their R&D section, we've got here over at the University Hospital in Basel. They're doing some R&D on the rest of the old psychedelic medicine cast, LSD, MDMA, DMT, and psilocybin. So, they've got well more bases covered than Compass. I think their exposure and their paths to victory are a little bit better, thus probably warranting a better evaluation for them as well. So let's go ahead and add those last numbers here. The first number we're going to add will be $5.60 for Mindmed, which was its high. They broke that high during the day that this high was recorded, but this is probably the volume weighted average, so we'll go with that. 560 turns into 1.825 billion Canadian, and that turns into roughly 1.4 billion American. And then on Compass's side, its highs were roughly $61.69 American, which turns into a market capitalization of 2.21 billion. So all that was being done there was just to show you that the markets have been valuing Mindmed below Compass at a maximum of just under 65% of Compass's value. So not a very important number, but just to show that I think there is some discrepancy between the values here. So there is definitely some margin there for us traders to capitalize on. So moving right along to a quick technical analysis here. Don't want to take up too much more of your time here. These arrows represent the opening and closing of these previous stock offerings here. The first one being done in early October for 105. Right after it closed, we saw a nice little run here. Remember, this chart's been stretched out because of the parabolic movement earlier on. So the second offering was done right around here, mid-November. Big sell-off when that happened. When it was finished, when it closed, the days after were crazy runs, 20%, 30% days. Then we saw some more sideways trading before some results on Project Lucy, which pushed this stock parabolic. And then saw, classic profit taking on the same day the most recent offering was done. So said offering that is still open right now is supposed to close on the 5th of January, coming up on Tuesday here. Now this is no advice, and you can't make any predictions. No one has a crystal ball, so no one's going to be able to tell you what's going to happen. I think that coupled with the next catalyst, that being their NASDAQ uplisting, which is a goal of JR and the companies. So to say it's going to happen is a good prediction. To say when it's going to happen is impossible. I believe it's going to happen shortly after the closing of this offering, within the month. So that's what we're aiming for here. That's what we're banking on. That's why this is our stock. It's got some big catalysts. When that uplisting does happen, the main thing that is going to enable for this stock, it's going to allow you Robin Hooders out there to have access to Mindmed. I believe access to Mindmed on Robinhood is really going to push this thing to the next level. So that's really where my head is for this week. Going to be really focusing on the psychedelic sector. As I'm finishing the recording of this on Sunday, I'm realizing that I completely ignored Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has obviously been a great runner the past couple of days, so I feel kind of stupid that wasn't part of it. But here are a couple tickers there that I would suggest you look at if you're gonna be compiling some tickers to watch for the week in terms of Bitcoin trades. So if you liked the content, you stuck around this long, I hope you liked it, so drop me a like, that'd be awesome. Subscribe to be updated when my new videos come out, and thanks for sticking around.